we focus based on our e-commerce and the amount of traffic we're getting. And just to give you guys an idea on how much traffic we get, we could do close to 8,000 orders, pizza orders per hour on a Friday evening. So that's a lot of pizza per day. And we do close to about 40,000 orders on a Friday. And a busier day, if you have a big snowstorm, you can get close to about 50,000 orders. So if we can keep everyone in house, more delivery for us. But it shows you the sensitivity of our platform as well. Because if those goes down, we have to ensure that we're well protected. And part of that, like I said earlier, is we partner with the managed service for our e-commerce platform, and both for our apps and our website, where we have these partners are monitoring our system consistently. We are setting rules, and part of this is all with artificial intelligence and AI, because the attacks are so sophisticated these days. I could remember one time we were getting attacked with gift cards, and someone figured out some type of sequencing, and they keep on throwing number out to our system, and our gift card goes back to our processor, and they call us what's going on. So we were able to fine tune that. And now with AI, we were able to determine the different types of variation coming in. That's where we add another tool on top of that. And we were able to determine the difference between bots and a human being and what they're doing. So this kind of helped us internally and how we can mitigate some of these risks. And I think AI is a big part of it, because it tried to outperform the smartest hacker out there. And it's still may not be enough, because every day when we look at it, there's someone trying to do something different, and we were able to mitigate it. The important is having a company that's very dynamic and looking at different ways of improving the system. That's where that's the type of partner we're looking at, because we can say anything is AI at first, but if they're not evolving, that's where the challenge becomes.
AI, like anything else, is a tool. You can extract value from it like any other tool up to a point. Where we really look to leverage it is in human enablement. So really looking for those, where do the advantages of different tooling end, and where are those gaps? You know, every vendor is designing for low false positives, right? And so it ends up leaving a lot of complexity to the SOC. And every dollar you invest in a tool, that's creating $1 or $2 or $3 more dollars of investment that you need in data management, tool management, personnel to be able to fully derive that value. So our AI investments principally are focused on how can we enable and augment our human threat hunters, really helping them identify those gaps. And I'll just give you two examples that have already been mentioned. The attacks that we're seeing a lot now are living off the land techniques, and we're seeing really long cycle attacks. And what's really interesting about those is that they pose a challenge, right? Because with long cycle attacks, very often the attackers are able to be patient. I think that's really interesting when you look at their business model that enables them to have that patience. And what they're doing is they're waiting for a lot of the probabilistic models to time out, right? They can afford to be patient. And then they're switching over once they're in, and they're doing recon very slowly. They're living off the land. It's very difficult for tooling alone to detect that activity. But if you're looking at the data rather than the tools, you can begin to see things using time series by looking across that can help point human analysts in the right direction and may help you drive down that mean time to detect, especially for living off the land attacks. So, you know, we try to focus on that. How can we defeat the adversary? How can we make the human analysts more effective at finding these things earlier, particularly for those long dwell and the living off the land attacks, where we think those are the most challenging and very often what we're seeing impact a lot of our client base anyway today. Ferial said something earlier that really resonated with me, and one of the ways that I think about it, it's really about that handoff. It needs to be a relay race rather than somebody starting from stop or throwing something over the transom, right? You really want to have that smooth handoff whether it's managed service to internal or whether it's analytics to human. I think that's where there's an opportunity for us as an industry.
We don't have a large team in my environment. We don't have the resources. So we look at these third-party companies and services as an extension of our team. And it's not a vendor, they're a partnership for us. They're the ones that can actively monitor our network 365, 24/7. They're doing the MDR detection or XDR, whatever the latest marketing buzzword you want to call it. But they're responding. If they see something, I have provided the green light to act on it. And as I try to get sleep, but if they'll call me in that 3 a.m. situation and be like, we have something and we've taken care of it, or here's the next course of action. So providing those services is the only way we're going to be successful and create that risk mitigation platform. Another piece that we're focused on in an area where I personally have had gaps and learning on the fly as fast as possible is around that virtual CISO relationship, is leveraging those services to fill in the gaps that I have, learning opportunities for me, but also they're educated in the laws that are changing around governance, compliance, and all of those pieces that us medium to small businesses might miss, and they're able to help us. Monique, you mentioned the white table sessions, like they're able to lead those and to have a different voice that is similar to the voice I present to the executive table, has a different impact and a stronger impact, saying these are industry standards, this is what's happening. So we're leveraging all of these services to make our team stronger and that focus on risk mitigation.
I could resonate with each one of you because we've all been through similar experiences. So yes, the threat is ever changing, and that's the only constant, is that the threats are adapting to the situations. First it was COVID, and now you can click on here to get COVID information. So we all recognize that there's a threat, and we also recognize that there's a risk reward. How much are you going to spend to gain what level of comfort? So to me, it's about having all the locks in the building and then being prepared that somebody is still going to break in. How do I mitigate that situation? So I've leveraged my vendors that are experts in this. These days, every mom and pop shop is offering cybersecurity services. So you have to be careful about who you choose. And I've watched some of the vendors come along. Like I started doing cybersecurity maybe 7 years ago, seriously. And some of these vendors have come across very nicely. Their product offerings have become better and more modern, and they're recognizing the threats. The other thing is, how do you determine threats, a data breach, and how do you measure the impact of a data breach in terms of cost? Cyber insurance is very critical in that risk mitigation factor. Getting your senior team to recognize what the real costs are is sometimes a challenge. I've also used my vendors, we are partners. So people we do business for. So I did my gap assessments using our customers. When we got our contract with Amazon, they made me fill out like a 50-page document on my security. So that helped me identify the gaps that I had. So once you know what the gaps are, you can start chipping away at those pieces. It's honestly about having the right processes in place as well. So right now I'm actually looking at getting some kind of internationally recognized certification that says we have all the right controls in place. But the first step of that is doing a gap analysis.
Everyone's talking about partners and vendors and using the word trusted. And I will tell you that that is a concern at the board. We want to make sure that the management is using all the appropriate partners and vendors. But what we also hear at the board is how oftentimes the coming through the vendors is where some of the breaches are occurring. And we can go back to the Home Depot breach and other breaches where the third parties are a vulnerability to our organizations. And that's what the boards are thinking about and trying to balance. Yes, we want you to outsource. Yes, we want to get the best tools out there, the best services, but how are you going to guarantee us and mitigate the risk of this third party vendor? What kind of due diligence are you doing with them? And so from a board risk perspective, it's a balance for us of asking the right questions of the management team, how they're assessing these vendors. But assuming that we find the right vendors, we are looking for everything that's been talked about, supplementing the team on hand, doing the pen testing, doing the monitoring, threat hunting. We've talked about work from home. Many of the boards that I'm sitting on feel that there has been an increase of security necessity to outsource to vendors because of that. Cybersecurity on the boards that I sit on, I will say, is a topic on every single board meeting that I'm on. And so from that perspective, do not believe that this is not something critical that the board is thinking about all the time.